Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to In the Zone. Pete Coles, Rich Sutter. It's our usual Thursday slot, but we've got a lot for you today, folks, and Pete has been very generous with his time. We've agreed to come in tomorrow as well because, as you know, today is Thursday, first day of the NCAA tournament, and it is absolutely one of my favorite days of the year, Pete.
Yeah.
I love it. Comes right after St. Patrick's Day, usually, and it's been interesting in the past, too. When I was an assistant coach at Colgate, we were very, very fortunate to participate in the NCAA tournament 2 different times, and it's a really special occasion, really, really special event, and it's just something really, really cool to be part of. And now to sit and be a fan, you know, of the D1, the March Madness, I just sit here and eat it up all day. So when we get done today, I got a couple of phone calls to make. I'm gonna head to the office for a little while, but then it's banzai out to the games. I'm gonna go home and just sit in front of the television until I cannot move anymore. I'll get up and move around from time to time, Pete, but don't look for me today, folks. Don't look for me today, okay?
The coach is in the
cave. The only
cave.
piece of advice I could give you. We're gonna jump right in with Pete's Corner. Pete's Corner is first 3 questions that Pete formulates for me, throws them at me, and we try and knock them back. We'll see what we can do today, Pete. I know you've had a little bit of time with this, so I'm a little bit nervous.
All right. So this college basketball crown, is that going to replace the NIT tournament?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I had a feeling. I had a feeling about that one.
Because it's all of a sudden it pops up out of nowhere. Everybody doesn't want to go to the NIT. Boom,
So
where does the money flow?
you're in a situation now where you have they're all little boy blues. You remember Andrew Dice Clay?
Yep.
The great comedian, Little Boy Blue. He needed the money, okay? Well, they're all Little Boy Blue now. And so the crown pays.
Yeah, right.
The crown's in Vegas. And so it's the answer to your question is the NIT going to step up their game now that the crown is sitting there in that kind of really, really juxtaposition to the NCAA tournament. Crown came in with 16 teams. They've got good teams. Our friends George Washington were fortunate to get admitted, and we're excited to watch that. They got a great matchup against Boise State, but they have good teams. And to be honest, we're going to go through our NIT slate at a little bit later in the show. But honestly, who's watching? Who's watching them right now?
That's my question, yeah.
Yeah, and the second question is, as long as they run this anywhere alongside March Madness, they're going to get overshadowed. As long as they run this anywhere in the vicinity of March Madness, they're going to get overshadowed. I don't know what the answer to that is. Earlier start, later start, I really don't know. But it might not be a bad idea to run the NIT somewhat like they do bowl games and have a little bit of a break in between and then run the NIT after the NCAA tournament has been done. And then you might be able to do something with some of the NCAA participants maybe that were in there. You know, could you grab them up for the NIT too? I don't know. But you could certainly alleviate some of the concerns that people are having with this wild scheduling all over the place and these games that are just kicking off. There's only 32 games in the NIT, 32 teams, in the NIT. But man, they're going up against the big dog. In the NCAA tournament, everybody has a bracket for the NCAA tournament. Who has an NIT bracket? Hold your hands up out there. In the zone land, all of our fans, hold your hands up there. Who did an NIT bracket? I promised I was going to bring one here today. I didn't even get a chance to finish it. And then they had games last night, so I felt bad about it because I looked at it and it just wasn't fair to look at it and have already known that those games had gone off. So they had some interesting games last night. There are some interesting teams in there. They had a good round last night. Not bad. But are they irrelevant? No.
Well, who's carrying that? I don't even know who's carrying those games.
Are they nearing irrelevance?
Yeah.
I can agree with that 100%. Again, you have the mindset of a corporate mindset. How do we make it better? What if it wasn't broken?
Right.
Same thing. How do we make the NCAA tournament better? We're going to add teams. We're going to do this. We're expanding. All of these corporate buzzwords that you hear, and that's why half of these companies that are out there go bankrupt. because they're just a poor vision. And if it's not broken, don't fix it. NCAA tournament has nothing wrong with it right now except those crazy little playing games that you added. Take those out, go back to 64 teams, and you'll be fine. Everybody will love the product. NIT, you got to up your game a little bit, because if the Crown keeps coming in with NIL benefit money, and it's upwards of, if you find out the top prize of this thing, it's significant. I mean, that's a good number for your NIL number all next year. I mean, you might even be set with that number if you were.
You could change the course of a program with that number.
Yeah, I mean, and say you were St. Bonaventure, who has difficulty with the NIL, no question about it.
Yep.
Even under the best of circumstances, are going to have trouble with this NIL. Now you're trying to raise $1 million. Okay, so you win $1 million out at the Crown. And now you come home.
That gets you a marquee player.
And that's your, well, really, it's your NIL for 1 year. And then having not to pay for your regular NIL in that year, you might be able to build some momentum in towards your next year. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It might give a small school like that a little gap measure in order to climb up and really become a better, stronger position for the NIL. So I could see that. The NIT right now, as it exists, call Pete. Call me. We'll come in. We'll be some prognosticators for you. We'll be consultants. Very highly paid consultants, but we'll help you work the thing out. It's not broken, but it's close. It's close, Pete. Great question.
All right.
Shoot.
Question number 2: is the vibe the same in the Division III and Division II tournaments as it is in Division I? I know you don't. The overall exposure is not the same, but is the vibe the same?
The vibe can be even better.
Okay.
Let me explain that. I'll give you some personal relevance, and then I'll move through it. Number one, when I was at Colgate, we got to play Kansas in the first round. Both teams were sent to Dayton. Okay? At the end of the day, it's a bunch of people in Ohio deciding, who love basketball. The place was filled. But it's a bunch of people basically from Ohio that are deciding between Kansas and Colgate. And to our benefit, the crowd really jumped behind us in that game. And although we were a 16 seed playing probably the number one overall seed of all, the crowd got behind us, and it was really, really cool, and they helped us. It made it better for us.
Yep.
So that vibe there was good for us. Wasn't very good for Kansas. Now, go to Division II and III. Here's the difference. Division II and III, often, we went this year, we got sent to Franklin and Marshall to play Randolph-Macon, who was the number 6 team in the country. Wow. Okay? Franklin and Marshall was also in that pod, so they had a home game. It's an actual home game. The other times we walked into Babson 30 minutes before the game, and we were playing Babson in the NCAA tournament, and the place was jammed. And I mean jammed. So you won't see that in an NCAA D1 game because they're in neutrals. What you will see is in the D3s, when you get sent to a hostile environment, you're in the worst possible basketball environment that you could possibly be in for your whole life. The gyms are smaller. The crowds are raucous. They're right on top of you. Catholic University and Worcester State played last year in the D3 tournament. The crowds were so close to Worcester's bench that it became a problem during the game. I mean, they're right on top of you. And the noise in those little gyms is just unbelievable. So I've been in big arenas, and I've heard it, especially when they go to the domes.
Yep.
It really minimizes that whole aura of it, But D1 is D1. It's great. They got the tournament. They have television. That's what makes them different. We don't have the television. But in terms of vibration, yeah, you get caught up in one of those D3 games. If you had gone to Wesleyan or Trinity and watched those games, they're completely sold out. You can't get in. Everybody's up, excited, pumped up. Sometimes you have two sides of the gym, where it was close enough for one team to travel and they could get enough people in there, like a UConn St. John's game in the Garden, and then you got another group on the other side, and it's like those high school basketball games in Massachusetts where they're chanting back and forth at each other and the crowd's involved and the play is just exciting and really, really good. I mean, that's what we all live for. But is the vibration different? Yeah, it's definitely different. Absolutely different. You know, like when we played Randolph-Macon, there was nobody there. We were neutral. You know, they had bussed in about 10 people, all dressed like bumblebees. You know, they're the yellow. They have a black and yellow.
Oh, black and yellow.
So they all sat together, and but there was really nobody at the game. There was less than 200 people at our game, most likely.
Oh wow! So they don't sell a ticket for the whole day?
Well, when the next game came,
yep,
it was filled. It was packed because the home team was playing. So it's just one of those things. You know, you're in a pod. And there's 4 teams in the pod. One of them's going to be at home, and they're going to get a great advantage from being home.
Yep.
Question 3, Pete.
All right. Does the winner of the NIL this year win the tournament this year?
Say that to me again.
Does the winner of the NIL battle for this year win the tournament?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Unless something comes really, really wild out of the dark, absolutely not. Indiana has one of the biggest bags out there. Boom. See you later. Ohio State, pretty big bag, didn't make the tournament. Texas, huge, huge bag, just got bounced out by Xavier last night.
I saw that.
Old little Johnny down in Arkansas, he got a big bag, and it didn't pay for him this year. So it's not a guarantor. What it does, as you and I have talked about, is it creates mayhem in your locker room. And only the really, really tight, disciplined coaches are going to be able to survive in this environment. Only that's going to happen. Pete, here's an interesting tidbit for you. I'll throw it out. That 3 of the 4 coaches that are in number 1 seed right now are of Jewish faith. That's pretty interesting, I thought. Pretty cool. Really, really exciting for college basketball as well, I think, especially what's going on right now. A little bit of, let's draw some good news. Let's have some good news. All right, Pete, we good?
Yep.
All right. I did not send Pete the NBA Power 15. Shame on me. I got all this stuff going on right now, folks. I said to Pete, during basketball season, I don't turn my phone on. Nobody has contact with me. I have a way that my wife and daughter can get a hold of me and my assistant coaches can get a hold of me, but there's levels to this stuff, as I tell people all the time. And when I'm in game mode and when I'm there, I listen to Andrea Hurley talk about Danny Hurley and her relationship. They were on 60 Minutes, and it would be like you were having a conversation with my wife Alexandra and I. I say to the girls in my house all the time, they come in and they're bouncing full of energy, then they look at me and I'm crawled up on the wall like some bat that somebody shined a light on. And I'm like going, just please stop talking. Please, anybody, don't talk to me today. It's game day. I can't have a conversation with anybody that's not dressed in stripes. And they think I'm crazy. And they go off and have a great time. And there I am in my own private Idaho. I don't have a hyperbaric chamber to crawl into, you know. But yeah, it's crazy, you know. But we're blessed. We're very blessed with good wives, you know, both of us, and that I think keeps us grounded.
Yeah,
you know?
you have to. You have to have that a little bit of space.
I'll tell you right now, people in Massachusetts are very lucky that I've had Alexandra next to me all these years, because when I was young and in New York, you wouldn't want me living next to you. So a tremendous remediation program has been done by my wife, and I thank her for that. And it's the yin of yang of things, Pete. You know, we make each other better, hopefully. You know, we fit into the places, or sometimes they're called blind spots. We fit into the places of the other where they need the most. You know, that's what I think a good relationship's all about. But let's go through the Power 15 regardless, because, man, it's hot up at the top. You got OKC and Cleveland. They are battling it out, 1-2. It appears right now that nobody's going to get into that mix right now of the 1 and 2. I had thought the Celtics would be able, and the Celtics are playing good basketball right now, but these two teams have really elevated. Cleveland, 2 15-game win streaks, and OKC, maybe the most consistent team all year long. And what you're hearing from a lot of teams, again, you know, especially the 76ers and some of these teams that have vastly and dramatically underperformed this year, you're hearing, oh, we have injuries. Well, they had Holmgren out for a really long time at OKC, and they kept the motor running. Yeah. So the injury thing is a bit of an excuse. Somebody else steps up. Somebody else takes that place. That's how it works. But the Cavaliers, you know, they're 56-12, Pete, both of them. That's
Wow,
amazing.
that is amazing.
That's amazing.
This late, this deep in the season.
You know, this deep and 56-12, and both of those teams, nobody was really considering them. You know, I guess OKC Thunder had some juice in the West, but they weren't a unanimous pick out there by any means. You know, but then let's run with the Celtics, 50-19. Everybody in the world would be happy at 50-19, except the people in Boston who got to see last year when I don't think they lost 19 games all year. A mash unit, Porzingis in and out. Horford in and out, Giroux in and out. They've had it all the time, and they've gotten hit. But again, I guess I could say this. With OKC, it seemed like it might have been limited to Holmgren and not a whole lot of other injuries. When you get it like the Celtics get it, it can be problematic because you're getting it. 6 games for Porzingis, he goes out. Giroux goes out for 6. Horford's gone. They were all gone at different times, too, so it really added up to, like, instead of just saying we lost Chet Holmgren for 20 games, you almost, you know, extrapolate that out to we lost a guy for 50 games. And that's a lot. That's a lot. So we got the Knicks right in the 4th spot. They're having some turmoil. You saw some episodes on their bench with the coaching staff and some of the players. Let me tell you something. If you're an NBA coach and you're not willing to get up and tear into your players like Thibodeau was tearing into some of those guys the other day, they're going to have no respect for you at all. Every once in a while, you got to throw down in the NBA. You cannot just be a yes man. You just can't be a quote-unquote player's coach. Every once in a while, no matter where you are as a basketball coach, you got to throw down. Yep. You got to be ready to throw down. I saw Tibbs in the huddle the other night, and I was like, he gets it. He's going to throw down right here. He's going to draw a line in the sand, and then the team will respond. And now they're in the 4th hole. 2nd overall in the Eastern Conference and really, really doing very, very well.
So they moved up then?
They have.
I'm looking at last week's, that's why.
They've moved up, and you saw some others bounce down, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. The Dallas Mavericks, way, way down. They have a lead stone around their neck right now since Luka left town. And then you see some other teams that we had that were hot. You had the Memphis Grizzlies and the Houston Rockets. Houston's bumped back up a little bit. I really like that team. They're going to be a good playoff team. And the Memphis Grizzlies, another mash unit, they're up and down right now, but still holding the middle of the pack, but they were a little higher. So this is just some of the plate tectonics that are normal and the shifting going on. But right now, you know, you're looking at West, East, East, West kind of stuff, and the West seems to have been dominant all year in that regard. You got the Houston Rockets at 44-25, Denver Nuggets right behind them. Denver Nuggets lost to the Lakers the other night in a matchup in L.A., could forebode for a playoff, maybe semifinal, if things keep going the way they are. And the Lakers were successful in winning that game, but they did not have the joker for Denver and did not have Jamal Murray, so that's a factor. Los Angeles Lakers right below them, 42-25. I gave J.J. Redick, the Lakers, and everybody else a load of mess about the hire when they first hired him. Coaching the Lakers, never having coached a day before in his life. I got to stand down and say he's done a good job. I got to say I was critical of John Shire as well. So maybe going to Duke and then getting one of these jobs has something to do with it, but I don't know. Memphis Grizzlies right there, injuries. A lot of players missing games, but they're hanging tough. And right now they'd get a really good look at the playoff home game. Golden State Warriors right there as well, too. They've elevated since the Butler has come to town. Jimmy Butler in the trade with the Miami Heat. He's really forged a new day out there because now you got to worry about Steph Curry and you got to worry about whether you like the guy or not. He's one of the best one-on-one scorers in the NBA right now, Jimmy Butler. Golden State Warriors have elevated. They're in the 9 spot. Minnesota Timberwolves are climbing little by little by little. They're shaking this trade off of them that they had with the New York Knicks. Anthony Edwards, still one of the great players in the game, but you're not hearing his name as much because he's mired in Minnesota. That's a name. You're going to keep an eye on a couple of names, Pete. You're going to keep an eye on John Morant. You're going to keep an eye on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Yep. And you're going to keep an eye on that young man as well to see if they get moved into major market arenas. Indiana Pacers, 38-29. A little higher last year. Halliburton's injury way back last year when he did a Peggy Fleming split right out on the court there. I don't know that he's ever really fully recuperated from that. That was a massive groin injury and really something that can slow you down as a basketball player. Yep. You can have a broken pinky and still be an effective basketball player, but if you have a sprained ankle, you can't. Anything in the lower extremities is really serious for a basketball player. It's why I say to all the people all the time, if I was an NBA agent, I would tell my guys, please don't dunk. Please don't dunk. Take care of your body. It's the only thing that you have right now. So here you go with the Bucks, 38-30. They're going to have a tough time in the playoffs, too. I think they're going to get a rough seed in the playoffs. Detroit Pistons are going to be in the playoffs, Pete. What a turnaround. Absolutely dead last in the NBA, and now they're going to make the playoffs. Amazing, amazing. Sacramento Kings, right there in the 15th spot. And really, we have an OOP segment here where it's out of the playoffs. We really put that up because the 76ers are now like 6 games out of playoffs and have to climb over Toronto and Brooklyn even to get into the playoffs right now. That's how far they have fallen this year.
You said when their guys started taking time off that was going to be bad. They weren't going to make it.
How can you?
Yeah.
How can you with 2 of your best players out essentially all year? You know? And here's the thing, too. A broken leg says he's out. We know he's out, okay? It presents a little bit of certainty in the locker room. He's out. He ain't coming back. Mm-hmm. But all along, these guys in the 76ers locker room had to deal with, is he ready? Is he coming back? Will he play a couple of games and then sit out again? I mean, it's just awful. And they're talking right now about trying to get rid of Paul George. Wow. Man, what you first need – I'm a root cause person. That's how my brain works, okay? So if you're telling me you want to get rid of Paul George, you better get rid of everybody who was involved in making all of this happen. Because right now you went from spending $1 gazillion, having everybody pick you to bounce up against the Celtics right now, and the Cleveland Cavaliers have your lunch money. Everybody's got to go, Pete. Everybody's got to go. I don't like to call for that either, but when there's that level, listen –
that's just incompetence.
When you have that level of raw incompetence, then you got to call it the way you see it. You got to call it the way you see it. Okay, Pete, I sent you a clip. Maybe we have it. It's the St. Francis clip. Because
I have the extended version of it because this really sets the table. It's about a
Let's go with it because this is exciting. And the reason I brought it up is because in the zone, we gave you 3 out of the 4 play-in games correct. This is how we lost the 4th one. We were right there. Moving the ball around, St. Francis in red. And you have the other squad is Alabama State. Okay, St. Francis there hits a 3 and ties the game.
30 seconds left. I wanted to play the whole thing because it really sets the scene for how this goes down.
It does. They're tied now. They have a great defensive possession. And then this is just basketball, Pete. Watch what happens here. I feel so bad for these kids on St. Francis because they play great defense. Don't come down with the rebound, but here it goes, loose ball. That's a foul.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? So they go to the line. He misses. Boom. Here we go. You're tied. He's going to start dribbling. Don't do it, big fella. Don't do it. Oh, there it goes. They're out. Boom. Nope, we got it back. Oh, he's dribbling off his knee. Boom. Here we go. Now, this is heartbreak central right here. They even went to 3.4 on them, but they didn't even need the 3.4. They throw the bomb. Deflection. Boom. Up with it. Layup. That's how we lost. The only game we lost that night, Pete. And that is unbelievable. Alabama State, for that great victory, gets the pleasure of playing Auburn. But if you wanted to start off March Madness with some March Madness, well, that you can't figure out a better way to do that. Look at the looks on the players from the red team from St. Francis. Look at that view. What a view that is. Boom, boom, bounced around twice. That's like an NFL Hail Mary. It just bounced around, and they give it the heave at the end. But man, it's just such a deflating way to lose a game after having euphoria. They won their league tournament for the first time since 1991. Now, I'm going to tell you something also. When I was at Colgate, or you're in Loretto, Pennsylvania, where St. Francis is, the whole town gets behind this thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're all excited about it. And so that right there is like popping a balloon. That thing just goes, the balloon inflates and inflates and inflates, and it doesn't get to deflate. It just pops. And that was just unbelievable. And I'm looking at that thing, And as a coach, I'm critical. I'm looking at the film. I'm looking again. I've seen it a bunch of times right now. I don't know anything that they could have done differently that would have changed the whole episode there. I just gotta, you gotta hand it up to fate sometimes. I've been on, I'm close to 700 games I've coached at Westfield State, probably over that. And I've been involved in a lot of other games that have been there at St. Bonaventure, at different places that I've been in. There's been about 5 or 6, maybe 7 times that we've been involved in games like that. And I would say, so let's say it's 8. 4 of them went the other way, and 4 of them went our way. And it's just unbelievable the way your emotions can swing in that absolute moment. Absolutely crazy, Pete. But that's where we are with our bracket right now. And you got your first 4. They're done. And so what happened, I'm going to give them to you all. And we were called correctly on these. And I was honest about the Alabama State-St. Francis game. I said, I don't really know. I don't know much about these teams. But Alabama State now gets to move on, as we aforementioned, to play Auburn, the number 1 overall seed. All right, and we're done talking about all of this. Did North Carolina belong in? Pete, I got to be honest with you. I think North Carolina belonged in. I really do. Do you take the bottom half of the SEC, Oklahoma, Georgia, Arkansas, they didn't belong in.
Yeah.
North Carolina finished 5th. Now, I don't like the way it happened, and I didn't like the 11th seed, but they came out and smoked San Diego State the other night.
Yep.
They shot over, I felt bad for San Diego State because they shot over 50% from three-point range,
Wow.
Pete. They were absolutely on fire. And do you think that Coach Hubert Davis might have been playing some clips for them about how they didn't belong?
A little motivation there.
Motivation, baby, and I think he used it to a T. So really, really, really good game for them. I have North Carolina in the Final Four, folks. If this team shoots the ball like they did the other night in the continuous games in this NCAA tournament, and this is what March Madness is all about. It's making shots, big shots, and they made a lot of big shots the other night. All right, Alabama, St. Francis, we saw that. Xavier, we called that over Texas, and there's a lot of rumor that Texas is going to change hands with coaching rumors out there. But
Carousel's
Xavier,
open.
What's that?
Carousel's open.
We're going to jump into that, and Carousel's like, whoa, Pete, I'm dizzy. I'm dizzy. There's been retirements. There's been firings. There's over 20 Division II jobs available right now.
Wow.
It's crazy. So you got Mount St. Mary's against Auburn American last night. They're going to get to play the Dukies. So Mount St. Mary's beat American University last night, had a good game, and I thought they played very well. And I thought Mount St. Mary's would win that game. North Carolina just boondoggled over on San Diego State and smoked them. So that was your 4, and now they get to move on. North Carolina gets to play Mississippi. I expect North Carolina to win that game. Alabama State gets to play Auburn. I think they're going back to Alabama. I think Xavier, Texas, Xavier gets to play Illinois in a 6-11 game, and I like Xavier in that game. And Mount St. Mary's is going to play Duke, and I hate to say it, but you're on your way back to Maryland, folks. But the Dukies are good. I think there's other places they could get hit. All right, today's the day, folks. Today is the day.
Games are already in progress as we tape.
You got games in progress right now. Pete might punch us in on 1 or 2 right now. I think we're going to just give you the whole slate. But there are some games that really I think you're going to really gain some more enjoyment out of than others. I really think this Creighton-Louisville game might be the best game of the first round. I've heard other people say that. I'm in concurrence and agreement with them. This is a game where both of them got bad seeds from the NCAA selection committee. 8-9 for Louisville, who almost won the ACC, is ridiculous. Putting Creighton, who is a viable Big East team, who's a Power 5 team, in as a 9 seed, I just didn't get it. But that game goes today. I think that was bad seeds times 2. Okay, you got at Creighton, 24-10. But Louisville's 27-7, and I think Louisville's going to have a good shot there today. I watched their team. They're a lot like St. John's, where they have athletes on every position of the floor. They're long, and they have height, and they have range. Florida, St. John's, and this Louisville team have a lot of length, and that's something that can pay in the tournament, especially when you have the length that St. John's has. with guys who can cover point guards with their centers. Juby Iafor is covering guards on switches and doing a great job of it. And so that's part of it. Usually when you switch, you create mismatches. And so a big guy gets onto a guard and a guard gets onto a big guy and you got a big mismatch there. St. John's don't have no mismatches. That's what their size does for them. So now you got High Point and Purdue. Look at this game, Pete. I don't want to wish nothing bad on Coach Painter because he's already gotten a 16-1 snub. But High Point's very, very good, folks. 29-5, a 13th seed. But they're going up against Purdue, a 4 seed. That's one of the games I think you should keep your eye on if you're an upset hunter. Montana, Wisconsin. The Grizzlies come in 14 in a row. Wisconsin has what I consider to be Wooden Candidate Award nominee and should be a consideration is John Tanji. A great year that Tanji's had for Wisconsin and leading the way. Southern Illinois University of Edwardsville is a 16th seed. They got to go get Houston, and I think Houston can be one of the, they can be one of the great teams of this tournament. They have the balance. They have the depth. They also have Coach Sampson, who's got them playing incredible defense. They don't take any possessions off. That's what I like about them. Alabama State at 20-15, going to bounce up against Auburn, 28-5. I think Auburn gets through this game, but folks, I'm going to give it to you straight. There's some cracks in there. Auburn's got some cracks. I don't know if they're locker room cracks. I don't know what I'll tell you what they do have also is they have some defensive cracks. You have some players there that aren't giving a full effort. You have some players there that aren't fully knowledgeable about how to cover certain areas and how to do certain things. And your brain on the defensive end, on the offensive end, it has to read like a computer. On the defensive end, it has to read like a computer on warp speed. It's got to be really fast because the offense is coming at you and you're in reaction. Offense is in action, but you're in reaction. And that's what makes it really, really difficult. That's where I see Auburn, getting clipped. I really, really do. When I saw them play Duke earlier in the year, I saw a little bit of that, but the problem hasn't been cleaned up, and it's only gotten worse. And if you look at, one of their players, Chad Baker-Mazara, getting, ejected from a game, their emotional quotient isn't very good on this team, I'll say that. All right, McNeese, Clemson. All right, I got to stop here for a second. I want the NCAA's attention. I want all of you people that sit around all the boardrooms there, okay? This is bad, all right? This is bad on a lot of fronts, okay? McNeese State is playing Clemson today. Yesterday, it comes out that McNeese State's basketball coach, Will Wade, has accepted the NC State job. Now, it's the same thing as opening the portal before the season's over.
Why would they announce that?
They announced it the day before their game. You couldn't have waited?
Yeah, why would they wait? Why would they announce that?
You couldn't have waited? And that's why I want the NCAA's attention here. Do you have some play here? Do you have something you can do about that? Because I think you made a change to the portal, which you tried to ameliorate that problem and moved it to March 24th, which I don't think it necessarily takes out the problem totally, but a little bit of it anyway. But man, oh man, is this necessary? I mean, I feel bad for those guys at McNeese State. I really do. I really do. Here's a good game for you, folks, and I'm going to call this one as they call it an upset special. It's a 6-11 game. I like VCU. I got a chance to watch VCU a bunch of times this year because I'm really into the A-10 for a lot of different reasons. But BYU is very, very good as well. But keep an eye on that VCU game. And their coach is being bandied about for a bunch of jobs as well. I think it might preclude everybody's interest to have these schools hold off until everything's done before they move on any of their coaches. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Can
the NFL does, right?
Can you conclude your business in April and in May after the tournament's done? I think they probably could, But this young man's been talked about. Now, does he need to win a game here over BYU to get to Virginia, to get to one of those vaunted jobs? He was at Utah State and did a great job. His father was a basketball coach, Dave Odom. So I think, he's proved himself. VCU's very good. I expect them to give BYU everything they can handle. Pete's got a little live action up for you there, so I'm just going to keep talking in the background, and we can give you a little bit of action going on right now in the tournament.
That's Creighton, Louisville.
Creighton and Louisville, 8-9 game. And guess what, fellas? You get to play at noon. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. These are two very good teams. This is the part that the NCAA is missing. One of these teams is going home today.
Yep.
And you won't have them in the tournament anymore. And that's where your seeding, that's where your pairings, that's where all of this stuff has to get better. Has to get better. All right, Georgia, Gonzaga. Georgia, this is going to be a tight game. It's a 9-8 game. Georgia has, let me give it to you straight, Pete. Georgia has zero reasons to be in this tournament, in my opinion, given where they finished in the SEC. And also, and I like Georgia. I love them. But also a 9 seed for Georgia, they were 20-12. They won 2 or 3 games away from home all year.
You were talking about that, the mismatch that they have.
The differentials are big. They don't look at that because they favor the Power 5. The home and away differentials are huge. The cannolis are huge, Pete. And what happens also is, this is the funny part, and I'm going to give it to people straight, the home and away differential and the cannolis often collide.
Yeah, the ratios
often collide. Wofford and Tennessee. Coach Barnes got a great team here, and I watched them. They were playing loose. But Wofford, oof. They're good, too. 19-15, and they came out of nowhere. You got to watch for these hot teams that come out of nowhere. Arkansas and Kansas. I'm going to say Louisville and Creighton, number 1 game, but right here is a nice little subset. One of these teams is going home. Arkansas brings Boogie Flan back, and they're going to bring him off the bench. And that's big because he's been out since mid-January. And now we're coming back, and that's going to help them. Depth-wise, it's going to help them at the guard position as well. And he's just that kind of player who can get going for you and really, really do some good stuff. You got Yale and Texas A&M. Give a look at that game, Pete, because Yale's been in this dance before. Mm-hmm. Yale's had some chances. Texas A&M is very, very good. Wade Taylor IV. Buzz Peterson is a great coach, but keep an eye on this Yale team. Those Ivy League guys, they know how to shoot, they know how to pass, they know how to move. Like Pete Carrill's teams, they'll give everybody a hard time. And I would not be surprised to see Yale survive here. Drake, Missouri, what a matchup this is. This is the guy McCollum who came out of D2. He's 30-3. If you need more reason to move up lower level coaches than Ben McCollum, I don't know what reason you're going to get. But if you don't start looking at some of these guys and start bringing up some of these guys, instead of some of these NBA guys that you just hatched who have never ever coached a day in their life, coming in with NIL bag and all that other stuff. Yeah, he's going to get NBA people to give us an NIL bag. I think that line is overrated personally, But, hey, that's a great game. 30-3 for Drake. Missouri 22-11, played in a great conference, but they're loaded up front. They're good. Utah State and UCLA, big game. Could see Mick Cronin get a punch out here, and people have been talking about him moving from UCLA to other jobs. Right now, that has not materialized.
This is the tip-off Purdue High Point.
That's Purdue High Point. Yeah, again, they got to space these games out better. Do it in 4 days. Do the first 2 rounds in 4 days. And so you don't get hit with 32 games on one day, 16 games on one day with 32 teams and 16 games on the next day with 32 teams that they can't even cover right. They can't even keep an eye on them. That's why they got, we're flipping to this one now, and we'll flip to that one. That's one of the things I can't stand about the NCAA tournament also, from a television perspective, to you guys at ESPN, to all you guys in that booth, in that truck that work these games, that do a great job. You do a great job, but the flipping back and forth during the NCAA tournament drives me absolutely insane. Pick a game, pick a lane, and stay with it. All right. We got Omaha and St. John's. A lot of people talk about this Omaha team. I don't know a whole lot about them, but they better be real good if they're going to beat this St. John's team because Pitino's got them fired up. The Godfather is working it. San Diego, UC San Diego, maybe one of the worst seeded teams in the entire tournament. They were given a 12 seed after being 30-4. They play Michigan 25-9. I think UC San Diego can be successful here. It's a 5-12 game, but I'll tell you who's really, really concerned about it is the guys in Vegas. UNC, Wilmington, and Texas Tech. Wilmington at 27-7, and Texas Tech at 25-8. Those are your games for today, Pete. Here's some upset specials I want you to keep an eye on. UC San Diego, Michigan, aforementioned. I think that could be an upset special. VCU, BYU, I'm liking VCU in that game. Certainly upset special. And the game you're watching right now, High Point and Purdue, I don't know, but that High Point team is good. And the Purdue team, they have their issues since the big fella went to the NBA. Braden Smith bringing the ball up right there, little high ball screen action. Very well coached, this Purdue team, but High Point very well coached as well. All right, we're going to go to our NIT results, Pete. San Francisco 79-70 over Utah Valley. UC Irvine, the Anteaters, 82-72 over Colorado. Dayton beat Florida Atlantic. Good game. Got to watch it a little bit last night. The A-10 moves on. Santa Clara 101-62 over Riverside. They boondoggled them. Okay, SMU 73-63 over University of Northern Illinois. That SMU team has a chance to be pretty good in this NIT, I think. Arkansas State 103 over 78 St. Louis. Wow. That I did not see coming, but that was an absolute beatdown. Watched a little bit of the game, but that was an absolute beatdown. A-10 team going out on a stretcher. North Texas, again, they're in the same bracket as some other really good teams in this NIT section. But I think North Texas is very good. I think the NCAA selection committee snubbed them. But I think they're very good. They were able to beat the Paladins of Furman. Jacksonville State over Georgia Tech. This one's going to sting, and this one might have repercussions. 81-64, Jacksonville State, tiny little school out of Alabama, beating Georgia Tech.
Wow.
Welcome to the NIT.
Wow.
UAB 69-65 over St. Joe's, another A-10 casualty. That UAB team is very, very good. Yaxel Lannenberg is maybe a pro. Have to give him another look as I get through and watch them a little bit closer. Middle Tennessee versus Chattanooga. Chattanooga 109, Middle Tennessee 103, Pete, in triple overtime. Unbelievable game, and by all imagination, that was maybe one of the best games of the night. Bradley 71-62 over North Alabama. George Mason from the A-10. I like this team, and I think the NCAA selection committee snubbed them as well. 86-69. If you were back on the old performative RPI rating, George Mason gets in. But now they let the Power 5 goes in, and they put in a little snake oil and a little wart of the toad and a little bit of that, and they started skewing this potion that they have, and all of a sudden the smoke came out, and boom, there went George Mason. Boom. Then went half the other mid-majors who have had absolutely great years. San Jose State and Loyola Chicago, another A-10 matchup. Loyola winner there over San Jose State, 73-70. Stanford 87-70 over CSUN. Maxime Reynaud, got to put him in the top 15 of the draft, Pete. And this one I'm sorry to report on. Little sad news. Kent State 75 over my Bonnies 56. Hats off to Kent State because they really did an incredible job in that game. I watched the game. I was very dismayed, obviously, but, you know.
Hey, just an update. High Point had one of their star players just go to the locker room.
Same thing just happened with American U in the Mount St. Mary's game the other day. Great credit to the Mount St. Mary's people also because all the players on their team, the young man had to go out, came back with a crutch and a boot, and there was no way he could come back in the game. He was one of their best players. Go to the NCAAs, get all the way into a play-in game, and all of a sudden you get an injury like that. It's got to be heartbreaking. I want to take credit to the Mount St. Mary's players who all went down, all shook hands with the player from American University, and I thought that was really cool. Good moment in the NCAA tournament. You know, I think that there's going to be a lot of great moments in this tournament, folks. There always is some great moments. Last night you saw it, or the night before on Tuesday, you saw it with Alabama State and St. Francis, Pennsylvania, a 94-foot pass, bounced around, and then laid in the basket finally to defeat St. Francis, Pennsylvania. Just, that's March Madness, folks. That's the way it goes. And if you looked at some of those conference tournaments as well, there was a lot going on there. All right, Pete, I'm going to give you NCAA. I got a couple of things I want to do here. I got about 13 minutes.
Yep.
Maybe I can get through here. But here's your first team All-American. This is AP first team All-American. We got Janai Broom from Auburn. You have Cooper Flagg from Duke. Mark Sears from Alabama. You have Braden Smith from Purdue and Walter Clayton from Florida. My only question there is Braden Smith from Purdue. Very, very good subset other than that. J.T. Tompin on the second team. Cam Jones from Marquette, J.T. Toppin out of Texas Tech, had been at New Mexico. Had he stayed at New Mexico would be a top 10 team right now. John Tanji from Wisconsin, I think he belongs on the first team over Braden Smith personally. P.J. Haggerty from Memphis had a great year. And you got R.J. Luis from St. John's. People may remember R.J. Luis was at UMass before he became a portal entity, wound up, down at St. John's. And that's one of those times you can point to the portal and say, it worked. It worked. He might not have been at the right school in the first place. He might have, been caught up in some stuff, that wasn't good for him, NIL wise. And then comes along St. John's, and he goes to play for a Hall of Fame coach, and who's pulling the most out of him. And now he's, I gotta say he's probably, in the Maxime Reynaud range. He's top 15, he's top 20 NBA pick right now. So it does, there are some good stories about that, Here's your third team, Pete. R.J. Luis closes out the second team. Hunter Dickinson, Kansas. A lot of people weren't happy about him making it. Ryan Kalkbrunner, Creighton. I thought he could have maybe even been higher. Eric Dixon from Villanova. L.J. Cryer from Houston. And Zakai Ziegler from Tennessee. Here's some honorable mention people, and I think they really missed on a few of these guys. Derek Queen from Maryland, they missed. Dylan Harper from Rutgers, they didn't have a good year, but he did. Maxime Reynaud, I thought they missed on him as well, too. Donovan Dent from New Mexico and Javon Small from West Virginia. All right, Pete, we're cooking it. I'm going to go right to our carousel. All right, that was good. We're rolling, and then I got one or two more things, and we're going to make it out. We want to go back into the NBA because I'm going to make Pete laugh before we go. All right,
Okay.
So Indiana had opened when Mike Woodson left. Now they have hired Darian DeVries, who was the head coach at Drake a year ago, went to West Virginia this year, and now has done 1 year at West Virginia, 18-9 record, and now takes the Indiana job. Okay, after 1 year at West Virginia. All right. His son, there's a little bit of smoke around this one, Pete, so I'm going to lay it out. His son sat out most of the year with an injury. And people are saying that there had to be some kind of communication between the Indiana folks and coach prior to all of this happening, because his son sat out, and now he gets an extra year of eligibility, lo and behold, to go follow his father again, once again, transfer again to Indiana and have 1 year left. So that's making Pete go, and I think it's making a lot of people go home. NC State, they got rid of Coach Keats. They have, and again, we hammered these people, and again, I don't know who to blame on this one. I guess everybody. But they announced the day before their team was supposed to play in the NCAA that Will Wade would be taking over the NC State job. Congrats to Coach Wade. He's back after being bounced after the LSU FBI wiretapping scandal, where I thought he kind of was made into a scapegoat a little bit, especially since there was a whole lot of shaking going on there. But he's back, but I don't like the way he came back. Stay behind the curtain for another couple of days. All right, Brad Brownell, he took a BBD at Clemson. Take his name off the board, folks. You're not bringing Brad Brownell into your university anytime soon. He took a BBD, which is a bigger, better deal from his folks at Clemson. He's going to probably sign a 6-year contract, which, knowing Coach Brownell a little bit that I do, that might be a lifetime contract for him. Currently, as we talked about, there's 20-plus Division II openings right now. The fever is hitting all levels. The fever to fire your coach and bring somebody in new is hitting all levels. Campbell is going to hire John Andrzejak from Florida, previously Columbia. Chicago State is going to take Landon Bassi He was previously at Alcorn State. Florida State, and I got this one circled, they took in Luke Lukes, who was a former player of theirs, who's an NBA assistant. You heard it here first on In the Zone, folks, with Hoop Dirt's Adam Nelson saying the new trend was going to be to bring NBA players, former NBA people down who were players at the former school to bring in the NIL bag to get this thing rolling. And again, zero head coaching experience. I think we're seeing some problems with that all around. You are seeing some anomaly situations where it's gone well. But taking that top level job, Florida State's a top level job. Whether you think it is or not, they're playing top level people. They're in Duke's conference. That's who you got to go against. And so when you do that, I think at that level, it's not great. Iowa parts ways with Coach Fran McCaffrey. That's going to hook up a whole bunch of other people into that job. I think they had thought Darren DeVries would be interested in that job, but he jumped at Indiana instead. Smart move by him as well, too. Indiana's a better job. Murray State parted ways with Ryan Miller. UNLV, Kevin Kruger has been dismissed. Utah, this is another circle, an Adam Nelson Hoop Dirt circle. Alex Jensen from the NBA, former player at Utah, coming back. He's in. Villanova, we predicted this would happen earlier on in the show. They took Kyle Neptune out of the job. West Virginia is now looking for a coach. I'm going to throw a name out for you, folks. Huggy Bear. Don't be surprised if you hear Bob Huggins' name back to West Virginia, because who else is going to be able to walk into that job and raise significant NIL people, NIL money from the people at West Virginia? Who's going to be able to attach to the community better than Huggins? I wouldn't be in favor of it, but I'm hearing it. I'm hearing it. West Virginia's open. Here's one for you, Pete. And this is saddening because I know the guy. Let's go back to FDU, and they beat Purdue. Coach's name was Tobin Anderson. Tobin, a little while before that, had been the head coach at St. Thomas Aquinas. And all of the coaches in our business, a lot of us know Coach Anderson and respect him a lot and think he's a good guy. And what happened was, I mean, let's go through it a little bit further. They beat Purdue. So he gets, instead of being at FDU, he gets to move up. He moves up and takes the Iona job. After 2 years on the job, 33-34 record, almost 500, Iona parts ways with him. They fired him. Now to bring in a new coach, what they're talking about is the NBA model that Adam Nelson talked about, where they're going to bring an NBA assistant coach to come into Iona and have a bag, that's significant bag. Okay, here's the deal. He had 3 years remaining on his contract, which was about $500,000. They had to pay him $1.5 million to get rid of him. Now, let me go into this from Iona's side, okay? Because this isn't going to be popular with some of my coaching fellows, but let's get into it from Iona's side. They're paying $1.5 million to find a new coach to change direction. 2 years. They felt like they didn't have the right guy for the new environment that this is going on, and they wanted to change. Now, every single one of those $1.5 million is going to cash. And before this, Tobin Anderson had been at St. Thomas Aquinas. When he got a better job to go to FDU, he took it. When he got a better job to go to Iona, he took it. Now it turns around the wrong way, but that's the business, folks. That's what you do when you run in this, especially in the Division I game. Keith Ergo from Fordham had a chance to see their team play a couple of times this year. Great guy by anybody's consideration. Really solid human being. But again, in this environment, I don't know what Fordham had to pay out there as well. I'm saying Fordham probably got stuck with at least the same number that Iona got tagged with, but I don't know. I would say it's a pretty significant number, because if you do it after 2 years, standard contract for coaches is about 5 years. So you got to do 3. If you did it after 3 with Ergo, he probably had 5 years as well. And if he had 5 years, it's funny because, let me finish this. With Ergo, he probably makes a lot more than Tobin Anderson does. He's probably making 7. So if you got to pay 7 times 2, that's almost the same money you got to pay to get Tobin Anderson out at 3. Okay? But here's the funny piece, all right? Way back when Jay Wright decided to retire. when Jay Wright left Villanova, it was a bit of a shock. One of the first NIL shots across the bow, in reality. Okay? There's a guy in his prime walking out of the business saying, thank you, I've had enough. Okay? But what happened was Kyle Neptune had been at Fordham for 1 year and hadn't really distinguished himself. But the people at Villanova were really, really ramped up about bringing in Kyle Neptune. So they bring in Kyle Neptune. Keith Ergo was Neptune's assistant at Fordham. Fordham wanted to maintain a little bit of their continuity, and they hired Keith Ergo. Okay? Within the last week, both of those gentlemen at Villanova and at Fordham have both lost their jobs. And what I say to people that are on some of these hiring decisions, you got to make sure you get the right guy, because this thing lasts for years. And Villanova, the once vaunted program, had 3 very, very rough years as far as Villanova. They lost to Columbia this year. That's a rough year for Villanova. And so same thing, goes on in these other places, All right, Pete, here's how I'm going to make you laugh.
All right.
There's one person that thinks Draymond Green has 1,000,000% chance of winning Defensive Player of the Year. Who is it, Pete?
Draymond Green.
It's Draymond. According to Dirty Draymond Green, he is 1,000,000% guaranteed to win Defensive Player of the Year. Personally, after watching him play defense, I think that's a long shot, D. I think you're a long shot there because you dirty. You're not a good defender. You're dirty. All right, Pete, I brought you a clip of Tracy Morgan. Do you have it? This is really going to cap the show off because this is unbelievable. Tracy Morgan, courtside at an NBA game. My great friend, rest in peace, Will Klein, would say to Tracy Morgan, dude, make an effort. Try and get up. Try and go to the bathroom. Dude, make an effort. He's just blowing chow right on an NBA court, sitting courtside. Now, Pete.
Dude next to him got up.
He said it was food poisoning. Okay? Food poisoning.
Dude next to him got up.
I think it was just the NBA. I think it was just the basketball. He watched too much. He couldn't take any more no defense. He couldn't take any more three-pointers being hoisted from the Netherlands. All right, Pete, I'm going to look into the camera real quick here because everybody's tipping off on their March Madness, okay? And I'm going to go and give them a little bit of a pump right here, all right? You're all going in to a Bruce Springsteen song right now called Darkness on the Edge of Town. When people used to ask me, Rich, where are you from? I would say to them, it's from where nobody asks any questions or looks too long in your face. That's where I'm from, okay? But that's Darkness on the Edge of Town, Pete. And we're all of you NCAA participants, all 64 of you that are left, you're all sitting around my locker room right now, except for the guys that are playing right now, okay? And I'm going to deliver a speech to you that I delivered to my Westfield State team right before a huge game. And it goes something like this. It says, some folks are born into a good life, and other folks get it anyway, anyhow. Today I lost my money, and I lost my wife. But them things don't seem to matter much to me now. Tonight, I'll be on that hill. I'll be on that hill with everything that I've got. Lives on the line where dreams are found and lost. I'll be there on time, and I'll pay the cost for wanting things that can only be found in the darkness on the edge of town. I think we lost by 20 points that night, Pete, but I'm not sure. See you next week, folks. Actually, we're going to see you tomorrow, folks. Pete's agreed to do an NCAA tournament selection show with us. We're going to update you. We're going to keep you rolling. We'll see you tomorrow. We're in the zone, baby.